Imagine
a podcast
where time drifts slowly.
A podcast
where
Isaac
carries you away.
So let me be clear. We tortured some folks.
If you don't like what we tell you to believe in, we'll kill you.
Hey everybody, it's Isaac. You're listening to Coexist Inc. Everybody loves a cute story. Everybody needs a feel-good story, especially when it's animals. So when you combine the two, it's a real formula for success.
By the way, this may sound like a sea rescue, but a baby goat, gets stuck in water.
This is some pig. You have to see it. A goat at a petting zoo got stuck in a lake. This really happened. That was cool.
Have no fear, there's a pig there. I mean, you couldn't do this at Warner Brothers as a cartoon and make it seem more realistic.
We were duty-bound to pass this on. It's the leading web video today. While we have no way of knowing if it's real, this was apparently shot at a petting zoo. That's a baby goat who got out into too deep water, begins crying for help. Enter this pig.
It seemed like the whole world was talking about my video. For a moment, I felt bad because it wasn't real, but then I realized that didn't matter.
Interspecies, he went and helped. Learn from it, humans.
In these cynical times, people are desperate for something to believe in, and I gave people a reminder that it's okay just to believe.
So of course, the dire wolf story that came out this month, that this company called Colossal Biosciences de-extincted, reanimated the dire wolf, has been all over the place, and people are saying, yay, good news finally, because we all really could use a W, a good old W. We need a win real bad. News, the news is not good, but I hate to break it to you, which seems to be something I do on the show a lot, it ain't good. In fact, it's really bad. In fact, these people, Ben Lamb, George Church, Peter Thiel, Epstein's in this story too, the people who are involved in fucking with your DNA, with your genome, and making you these promises are freaks that need to be stopped at all costs. And Colossal Biosciences, which, it's funny, it stands for Colossal BS, right, is bullshit. The whole thing is absolute nonsense. And to talk about this nonsense, I'm joined by Dorian, the great Dank Deleuze, to talk about why this direwolf stuff isn't real. You shouldn't believe a word they say about de-extincting anything whatsoever. It's funny they named these wolves Romulus and Remus because, of course, these people who are these self-appointed geniuses don't know any history outside of Greek and Roman antiquity. I don't think they know anything else about history. They also named one of the wolves Khaleesi, after the George R.R. Martin character in Game of Thrones, which is just kind of like perfect. These people, again, they don't know literature. And even when they do know some literature, it's like Game of Thrones, right? But they have this habit of naming things after evil characters, the wrong character. I mean, the Khaleesi character turned out to be evil in Game of Thrones, right? But also with Peter Thiel's Palantir. You know, they're naming these things after the villains. And these people are doing villainous things. How many stories are there out there? Science fiction, fantasy, just general parables about how we shouldn't be doing these things. Whether it's Terminator and AI, Skynet, or The Fly and fucking with the human genome and splicing things together. There are so many stories out there that tell you, don't do this. It's a bad idea. It's hubris. And it's like they see the villain and like, you know what? This guy's actually kind of cool. It's like Peter Thiel would read Blood Meridian and look at this Judge Holden character and be like, you know what? He's got some good ideas. I think I'm going to start a babysitting company and name it after him. Well, I'm still not on Spotify. I'm curious. Tell me how you're listening to me. Which programs you're using. I'm going to find another one. It's over for me. Spotify, it's done. But we'll figure it out. We'll get through this together. And thank you, everybody who continues to support me. Please send me your music. I'll put it in the show. And, if you feel like throwing me a little bit of $5 here and there, always appreciated. I'm still looking for sponsors. It could be anything. I could read one of your poems to a girl you think listens to the show. It's because girls do listen to the show. I'm surprised too, but they do. So anyway, enjoy the show. And again, we must work together to stop these freaks at all costs. It's a simple formula, guys and girls, and thems. Anything coming out of Silicon Valley, anything talking about IQ or AI, throw it out. Kick them in the nuts and run in the opposite direction. It's like, yeah, that's the goal, right? Instead of making planes more comfortable, they're just gonna CRISPR our bodies to fit into planes better.
Yeah, or here's an interesting one. Not to get too far ahead, but one of the things I kind of want to talk about is that you can tweak some genes, at least in certain animals, in order to modify behavior. So maybe we could just modify your behavior to make you love being cramped into a plane for God knows how long.
Yeah. What could go wrong? Docile.
The man loves a box.
The man loves a box. Just fucking make me want to be in a luggage suitcase with my head sticking out and just throw me into the plane.
If Isaac barely fits, he sits.
Anyway, what have you been up to, man? I've been thinking about you and all your projects. I've been proud of you and how busy you are. I was thinking about talking about some of your work you've been doing. I came up with a name for your project, even though I don't really know enough about it. So I was just in Japan, and Shintoism, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're doing a whole book on cement.
On concrete. That's gonna trigger people if you call it cement.
Maybe
I'm people.
Okay. Well, I don't know if concrete works as well, the word, but I was thinking
ironically though, it actually maybe has more to do with the cement part. So yes.
Okay. Well, now you're getting pedantic, but let me tell you my little joke.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Cementoism. Cementoism.
There it is. There it is. Very good. Very good.
So you can have that.
I do in the book. I talk a bit about Hitobashira. And do you know about that? The Hitobashira?
No.
It's pretty interesting. It's an old, semi-apocryphal, but apparently real to some degree tradition of burying people in columns or walls when you're building up like a bridge or a castle. You make a human sacrifice. You bury them alive, and it's supposed to stop storms from tearing it down.
Oof!
And, pretty cool.
Oh. Do they still do that?
No, well, I don't know. You were in Japan most recently, but I don't think so.
I did think I thought I heard a wall screaming at me, so maybe
that's just the ghosts.
I just heard like a help.
But I was thinking, oh man, is he gonna say that? Is he gonna bring that up? But no.
Well, before we get into the show, when is your book coming out? Just an early promo or whatever.
Thankfully, you actually we didn't plan this, but it should be finished editing this month, and I'm being told by the editor-in-chief that it should be ready for release in May, so next month. So yeah, it's finally here. We had to take a long time off from editing it because the whole team and we flew down to Chile to do bizarre science experiments oriented around the book, where we turned horse tissue into concrete, cement, and crystals. Apparently the university has changed their rules since then as to like what they'll allow people to put in their galleries, because apparently everyone was horrified by the toxic waste we filled the university with. which was pretty benign by the time that we ended up, putting it in the gallery space, but it freaked people the fuck out. And you know what? That's praxis now at University Andres Bello in Chile. You're no longer allowed to put toxic waste in their galleries, and that's all us. Shout out Operaciones.
Yeah, Mazel. What's the working title of the book?
So we have the title figured out. The subtitle we're trying to sort, but Xenotaph.
Xenotaph.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I think it's all right.
Pretty good. Well, I'll have you back
but-
on to talk about the book
That'd be
itself in
great.
concrete. But before that, why should people give a shit about concrete?
Because it's alive and it's eating us all, and we like it apparently, but we shouldn't. In a more kind of practical terms, concrete is the second most used resource on the planet, aside from water. And one of the reasons so much water is used is because it's used in the manufacturing of concrete. It produces a huge amount of our CO2 emissions. And it's just connected to all sorts of horrible global evil, even if you're not convinced at this moment that it is, in fact, a living hyperorganism that's trying to devour the planet.
That was really good. I'm fucking buying that book. That's awesome.
There's more concrete than biomass right now. We finally we did it a few years ago.
Wow! Congratulations!
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 Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations!
おめでとう。
おめでとう。ありがとう。
Good job, everybody.
Good job, us.
Good job, us.
Oh, I was just going to say we're here to talk about another form of horrible fraud science.
Helicopters.
Just manufacturing. Yes, of course.
Would you ever
can't just beat the air down? You can't do it.
Yeah. Would you ever get in a helicopter?
Yes, but only because I'm not afraid of death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But wouldn't there be like more interesting ways to risk your life than a helicopter?
Yeah, but it would be such a funny way to die.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't sound very funny to me. I
No.
I have a great. I actually have a fear of flying as much as I fly.
Yeah.
It really like stresses me out. I hate it. It's bad.
Not to be too much of like an edgelord, but when I hop onto a flight, I feel very deeply at ease because of the small likelihood that during takeoff and touchdown, there's a chance that we're all going to die, and I'm just not going to have to worry about anything else. It gets me off a little bit. So yeah, different approaches.
Yeah,
here.
don't put a blanket over your lap on the airplane. Then you can get in trouble for that shit. I have this experience, this duality on an airplane, which is my intellectual and my emotional sides really come out in full force. Intellectually, yes, I know it's quite safe, and also if I am going to die, there's literally nothing I can do about it. I mean, I could read the instructions, the cartoons, putting my head in my lap or whatever. It could be a great exercise in letting go of this facade of control that I have.
Right.
So yeah, I can understand that intellectually, but emotionally, physically, my body is almost shaking while I'm flying. Like, I cannot sleep on airplanes. The turbulence is so bad. Even minor turbulence just shakes me awake, and I feel it in my chest. So it's my mind and my body are at war with each other on an airplane, and it makes long flights feel that much longer to me.
That would make dying in a helicopter accident that much worse. Yeah.
It seems like it's a lot shorter because you're not as high up there. But yeah, in the news.
Well, I guess you're probably having spinning in that case, but helicopters are tiny, you know. Well,
yeah. No, I have no interest in going in a helicopter, and they seem to be a pretty effective way of killing off rich people because only rich people use helicopters. And just recently in New York, the Spanish CEO, not like the main CEO of Siemens, I think it's pronounced. It's German. Right. It's not Simon, Siemens, which is okay. He, his wife, and his 3 young children died in a helicopter crash in the Hudson. There is a long history of billionaires dying in helicopter crashes. You have Kobe Bryant. Yeah. Who also died with his daughter, which is, it's not great.
Just don't take kids on helicopters. Don't do it.
That is the thing.
That's actually good advice. Yeah.
The CEO of one of Nigeria's largest banks last year died in San Bernardino, along with 6 other people. Herbert Wigwe, CEO of Access Bank. The billionaire Chris Klein, he died, I believe, with his kids in the Bahamas.
No, sorry, just the kids. More kids. Just don't take kids on.
More kids. French MP and billionaire Olivier Dassault, he died in a helicopter crash. Another billionaire, Petra Kellner, died. There was another one, I can't pronounce his name. He's this Thai billionaire. He owned the English Premier League club Leicester.
Okay.
A helicopter would fly into the pitch and lift him out of the stadium and take him elsewhere. And it crashed right outside of the stadium, and he died.
September 8th, 2017, Gentry died in a helicopter crash in Medford, New Jersey.
Where I come from, everybody dies in a helicopter crash. So me and all my friends live a simple life, cooking to death in helicopter gas on the side of a mountain in Chappaqua, New York. My helicopter crash, just a simple way to die. Nice country. No fanfare about it, no big show, just quietly dying in an explosive helicopter crash.
Despite Gentry's death, Montgomery continues to tour under the name Montgomery Gentry.
Hell yeah. Well, my friend died in a simple folk helicopter crash. Simple folk things like losing your business partner who clearly didn't care much for because you just didn't even take his name out of the thing. Just kept cruising along.
And it's bizarre. It's a weird kind of stubbornness where it's just like, you guys must know this isn't smart. Right. Like, this is how you die.
I remember back when we were youngsters, and the war on terror was first really going on. And every time you would turn on the TV, you would just be hearing news about like the last 30 soldiers that fucking died in a helicopter crash. And it's just kind of like, I know that, a helicopter could be useful in combat for various reasons, but I don't know. At a certain point, it's like, I feel like more people, this probably isn't true, but I feel like more people were dying just because helicopters suck than from enemy combatants or friendly fire.
Yeah. No, I think this expression is something like, don't get in a helicopter unless you're going to kill someone or be killed.
Yeah, don't point a helicopter at someone unless you're willing to pull the trigger.
No, it is tragic though that it was apparently for one of their 3 kids, birthdays. The CEO, the Spanish CEO, Augustin Escobar, I believe his name was. So like I see a lot of online leftists, which sometimes I might be one of them, celebrating the death of this CEO, being like, "Yeah, dude, fuck yeah, another one down."
Sure.
Welcome to the resistance, Boeing manufactured helicopter or whatever. But yeah, like the kids dying is a real tragedy. I have a hard time being cool with that.
That does suck a lot. As someone that works with kids during my day job, I and is frustrated by them all day and would like to put them on a helicopter to get away from me. I would not want them to die on that helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a happy birthday, baby. Jesus,
Yeah.
that's dark shit. Yeah, it's dark, and I just don't think. I do believe that people have to die. I've given up my
sure.
nonviolence, but celebrating it feels uncouth. I'm not. Some people, yes, I would probably be psyched about, but for the
It all
most part,
depends. I'm happy keeping the kids out of it for sure.
For sure.
But anyone that hops onto a helicopter that has that much money and goes the other side.
Also,
I'm fine with that.
There might be some spiritual. I blame the father entirely for everything, not
sure.
the DEI pilot that they're gonna blame,
or the mom,
because he works for Siemens.
No, right, in this specific case, yeah.
Who would you have guessed it? This German company has a pretty a past they'd like to forget. They owned a plant in Auschwitz.
Of course.
And they supplied electrical parts to death camps.
Right, yeah. I mean, German automation company helps with death camps, Mort 11, yeah.
And would you also have guessed that this giant company, this giant multinational company, also does business with Israel? Would you be surprised to hear that? And it's funny. It's not funny. I shouldn't say that. But they currently provide electrical components to walls in the West Bank. So they're staying true to their ability. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess, with Simons and their whatever it is they manufacture. So yeah, it's like if you work for this genocidal multinational company and your helicopter goes down, it's like, shit, man, that's on you.
Yeah. I mean, it's it is. There is a certain kind of poetical irony in capitalists dying via helicopter rides. Sorry, I still have Chile on the mind, I guess. But,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, don't do it. But also, it should be, even if helicopters were not as famous for killing kids as they are, you shouldn't be allowed to bring a kid on a helicopter. You shouldn't be allowed to do it. A helicopter should be 21 and up, and they should serve booze, maybe, or not. That last part is optional. But
if your kid is interested in helicopters, I think you've done a bad job. Keep trains. That's fine. Get them into trains.
Yeah.
If they're into helicopters, go to therapy. Take them to therapy somehow. Or you could gene edit their love for helicopters out of them. Oh, I found the transition. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for us to find this. Yeah, Dorian. I wanted Dorian on the show today, mostly to talk about the freaks who are fucking with DNA.
Yeah. Specifically, colossal biosciences. And the double Georges that they have, who are both respectable joke people.
What does that mean?
George R.R. Martin I
yes, that
assume,
George. Okay, yes.
Well, there's two. George R. R. Martin, he I guess wrote some good books. I haven't read them. I don't read fantasy generally, but fine. He made things that people love. But also he's a joke person, and I hate him. Even though I have like 1,500 hours in Elden Ring. But and then there's George Church, who is the other the real big guy that's part of this, and he is a really an accomplished scientist, and has done a lot of really interesting and good things, and a couple things that I would controversially agree with. I like this idea of kind of the democratization of gene editing. I think is an interesting idea. Democratization of any kind of dangerous science, I just think is kind of cool and fun, even if I know that the world it's going to bring out is going to be nightmarish. But most of his other really popular ideas and things that he's pushing are either things that have already existed and they just coined, like the CRISPR-2 thing, which is this methodology. It's a multiplex genome editing, which is a methodology to edit dozens or hundreds of genes at the same time, which previously was, something that either was rare enough to not necessarily have that name, or you were using the initial kind of CRISPR and you were doing this more targeted gene editing, which targeted gene editing is probably more what you would want. I mean, not that this is untargeted, it's not random, but widespread gene editing is almost always going to cause like a pretty significant cascade of events. But so he's done that. He's also of course doing this shit with Colossal Biosciences, where they are pretending to bring animals back.
Yes. So for
just
those
not
of you
real.
who don't know, this month, the biotechnology company Colossal Biosciences revealed that they have, quote, I'm going to put this in quotations, created a trio of white wolf hybrids. They're calling them dire wolves.
Yeah.
And they've named them Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi.
Khaleesi, that's the one.
That's the one. And they were created by making 20 edits on 14 gray wolf genes.
And let me get into that really, really quick, because that's hysterical.
Okay, let's do it.
That is so fucking funny. Because if you're editing 14 genes, then that means that you are changing 0.1%, less than 0.1% of the total genome, right? And I mean, small edits can cause a whole cascade of different effects. But the difference between a dire wolf and a gray wolf, which is what they're editing, is closer to like 5.5 to 7%. We don't have a total picture, but that's a massive number. Like, human beings share 84% of our DNA with fucking zebrafish. So you cut out 16%, right? So just a little bit more than twice the upper limit of what we think the difference is between dire wolves and gray wolves is. Because they're not wolves either. They're not canines even. They're a totally different genus. And so by editing 14 genes, you are doing plenty, but you are doing nothing in terms of approaching the genuine difference between these two animals.
No, they've made they haven't made a dire wolf per se. They've made a Game of Thrones character.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
The idea that you could just touch a couple of genes and that would be it. On top of that, we don't even know exactly what dire wolves look like. We're assuming, we don't know if they were white fur, we don't know that.
Right. Yeah. And of course, because dire wolves were so widespread, they probably had all sorts of different kind of furs and whatnot. So I mean, I guess in terms of the aesthetics, a lot of that's going to be pretty arbitrary. We should put feathers on them. But but yeah, I mean, it's again, just to kind of push this point, like wolves as they exist and jackals are more closely related than dire wolves are to any living canine. It's really kind of an absurdity to do that small of a change, especially again, to repeat one of the things I just mentioned, especially when you have things like multiplex genome editing, where you can change again dozens or hundreds of genes at once, and your choice in bringing a species back to life is taking an existing animal and then tweaking it by 0.1%. It's really funny.
It seems like it's a you're seeing the other founder, Ben Lamb, making the rounds on fucking Joe Rogan, and of course Joe Rogan is doing all the heavy marketing lifting for them.
Way over time.
Okay, so this is what we'll just get to it. You made a fucking dire wolf.
I didn't.
You
our
guys.
team, our incredible team, made 3 dire wolves so far.
Let's see the photos. Jamie, bust out some photos. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself, because this is truly fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's the pup.
Yeah. So this is so that's actually Romulus. We have 2 boys, Romulus and Remus, founders of Rome, and then we have Khaleesi, who's the new girl. So this is Romulus and Remus.
Can we hear it? Let me hear.
We named Khaleesi for George R. R. Martin, obviously.
Obviously.
Who's an investor in Colossal.
Oh, wow. Oh. Nature's cute little murderers.
Well, everything in nature murders something, right?
Yeah.
Like we murder.
Well, cows murder grass.
Yeah. And people are now saying you can hear grass and other plants like scream now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they scream.
Yeah.
It seems like it's and they're presenting it as a massive success in the field of science.
Yeah.
But really, it's a massive success in the field of marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, they released I guess a white paper, which is nice of them. They finally did it 2 days ago, and they ended up sharing it on the bioRxiv, not a peer-reviewed journal, and of course there's nothing wrong with the bioRxiv, or just bioRxiv. It's a good way of getting things out if you aren't able to put up with a whole lot of peer review, just because of temporal limitations. You want to get an idea out there. You want people to see it instead of waiting years, blah, blah, blah. A lot of scientists put, this stuff out there before they ended up publishing it other places. But, the formatting isn't done in such a way that looks ready for Nature, for example, which is of course is going to be one of the kind of primary places where you're going to want to publish something like this, which would have peer review. It's formatted like it's something made by like a BA student or BS student, and
whoa, that's a mean one there. That's pretty mean. Burn.
It's just very much just kind of them putting it out there for PR, and the thing that bugs me about it though isn't so much well, the fucking formatting sucks. That's not enough reason to hate on something really, until you learn the rest of it, which is that the paper that they released, it seems to be, and I admittedly have not read through the entirety of the paper, though I've spoken to some biologists who have, but they're mostly arguing a different story for the evolutionary history of the dire wolf. And the reason that they're doing that is, again, because of what I mentioned before, which is that gray wolves and dire wolves are not even the same genus, right? Like, dire wolves are not canines. They're not dogs. They're not wolves. Wolf is a nice colloquial term that's added onto it. They split off from the rest of our existing canines like 5-6 million years ago. And the only reason that they are confused with wolves or termed as a wolf is because of convergent evolution. So, like the same reason that you have various different types of like crustacean or various types of like flying animal that arise all over the place that aren't related to one another. So they're fundamentally, unless we want to talk about 5.5 million years ago, not related to one another. And so what they're doing in this paper is that they're trying to rewrite, between 13,000, well, no, I can't even be that generous. They're trying to rewrite millions of years of history, which we have a generally good understanding of, especially because there are I don't think we have a complete genome of the dire wolf that's produced. But we have pretty decent understanding of its mitochondrial DNA and things like that we know as well as we can know with like one of these sciences that always has to be kind of viewed in retrospect, that in fact dire wolves were not evolved from wolves. But what they're doing in this paper is that they're saying that dire wolves are a product of interbreeding by various wolves, which is just false as far as we can tell at this point.
Yeah.
So the whole paper is just it's an unpeer-reviewed, cover your ass PR stunt on top of this, again, PR stunt. And one other thing I have to nitpick about, which is that Romulus and Remus, Khaleesi, that's horrible enough. That gives me nightmares.
These
thinking
people
about
have the worst
that.
taste in literature
Right.
and art. It's so annoying.
But if you're going to use Romulus and Remus, and then you're not going to have them raised by wolves, because there are these 3 dogs that are running around in, I think it's like 2,000 acres and just being watched. And it's just these 3 dogs that are just running around in circles. They're also not dogs. No one yell at me for my pedantism. But they got to be raised by wolves. And they're not raised by a mother, which again brings in this other biological kind of concern, which again, I severely doubt that they changed any of the behavioral genes. All of this seems to be a morphological kind of attempt where they're just trying to make it look as much like a direwolf as possible.
Right.
They're not changing its metabolism. They're not changing its behavior. They're not changing any of these genes. I'm sure that like the FOXP2 gene is left alone and blah, 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 blah. And so, if it looks like a duck, but it doesn't act like a duck and it doesn't quack like a duck, is it a duck?
No, I think that's perfect, and why it's I find the whole venture so upsetting and insulting, because it is the representation of this Silicon Valley thinking that it's all a facade, it's phenotypic, and it completely rejects the world itself. These people think that life is just a program. It's like software. You just type in the code and life plays out as it should. Yep. And they completely ignore the social and environmental contexts of life.
Yeah.
You saw this in Florida with the Florida Panther, where these evil law firms, it's their jobs, these law firms. I actually spoke to a woman whose job it was to remove manatees from the endangered species list, which is just like, how do you fucking sleep at night, lady?
How do you sleep at night?
On top of a pile of money with many beautiful ladies.
Just asking.
They do the same thing with the key deer, and especially now with the Florida panther, because they make this claim that actually the Florida panther is no different genetically from the California mountain lion. In fact, they did a breeding program breeding Florida panthers with Texan and California panthers to boost their population. And then so therefore their argument is like, see, that's not an endangered species anymore. That's just a mountain lion in Florida.
Right.
And that's the thing. So it's like there is a memory, there's a history of memory, a continuity of social behavior that these animals all adopt from each other and from the environment in which they were born.
Yeah.
And they don't want to believe that. These people, these freaks, want to believe that everything is in code.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to do. Plug and play.
And yeah, I mean, two things. I mean, one is just the kind of the funny fact that George Church, one of the big brains behind this, one of their big projects, one of their big cute things that they did is encoding books onto DNA. And that really kind of speaks to what you're saying right there, which is just this idea that, all of this is just code. We can just place whatever whatever kind of signifying elements we want onto this, because that's all it is. But then you have scientists around like Dennis Noble who are developing these kind of new visions of biology, which seem totally eminently true to me, versus the neo-Darwinist kind of like Dawkins approach, which is that it's not just environment and it's not just behavior that ends up affecting the evolution and the growth of these beings. And of course, those things are huge factors, but there's also the reality that you do need an existing system and body. You need a cell. You need something which regulates that DNA in order for that DNA to replicate and do its job well. I mean, if you just leave DNA more or less on its own as like a self-replicating machine, you're going to have like a fail rate of 1 in 10,000, which is pretty good. Like if you're like typing, but in terms of genetics, if it was just DNA being DNA, and if that's all anything was, then we would all have cancer immediately, right?
Yeah, they're really setting us up to fail and die excruciating deaths, aren't they?
And it's the body itself, and it's the cell itself that ends up regulating the DNA in order to determine more or less. And of course, DNA is still determinate. In order to use the DNA, in order to make the organism continue to function. The way that Dennis Noble puts it is that there's no privileged layer P's is important there, but just this idea of kind of a biological relativity, where it's not just genetics that determines an organism's function and growth, but it's the entire organism in play with its genetics, which of course is the book that it uses. But just modifying DNA and just focusing on that as the thing is not, it's not it. And then you have scientists like Stuart Kauffman, who really are pushing on this idea of, and he actually metaphorizes it using kind of what's literally happening as well. It's interesting, these landscapes of genes, and these landscapes of genes have to interact with surrounding environments, both literal and figurative, in order to conform and modify around and against them. And if you are just simply modifying an organism and throwing it out there without that coding by other landscapes that are growing alongside it, or in Noble's situation, a kind of an existing organism that's able to have some kind of historical relationship with that DNA that knows what to do with it, then you're just asking for fucking problems.
they're marketing their technology as though it's going to save the world. It's going to de-extinction. We're going to bring back all these species that
we're going to de-extinct them by collapsing all of our ecologies. The whole ecosystem, just collapse it.
It's just so stupid on its face. It's typical Silicon Valley a brain dead solution nonsense. It's the same thing as space colonization to me, where it's just like the planet's here right now. Why you want to make another one?
It's one of those things where it would be catastrophic if it worked, but it sucks even more somehow that it won't, and we're putting so much into it.
They just ignore so many factors that I think are very frustrating. There was an article in Vox talking about Colossal and their efforts to recreate the woolly mammoth, which is also just like, it's a megafauna, right? It's not a necessary species, or it would be way down the line of species you'd want to bring back, because that world that the woolly mammoth lived in no longer exists. Where the fuck are you gonna put it? And they have just these harebrained ideas that, oh well, they'll stomp around the Alaskan permafrost and that will prevent climate change. It's just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What do you mean?
And they ignore, they really hate mothers in all this, because they talked about how in order to create these woolly mammoths, they would IVF them into either an Asian or African elephant. Now, a woolly mammoth is much larger and much different, and they're just saying, imagine like how traumatizing it would be for these mothers. And the question is, would they even accept them as their children? Because it's like this hairy, weird thing popping out of them, like fucking it's an alien egg.
There are women out there with the rhesus mutation, which makes it so that if they get pregnant with the wrong baby, the baby or the mother could potentially die. And that's just a mutation within human blood. It's a very minor mutation. And so imagining like the pain and nightmares of forcing an elephant, an extremely intelligent creature, or a dog, an extremely intelligent creature, to bear the children of something made in a lab. Yeah, that's a fucking nightmare.
No, it's evil fucking supervillain shit. And the fact that these people see themselves as saviors is just all the more frustrating. And I think we buried the lead with this George Church fellow. I want to talk about how
Epstein.
Yes, a huge Epstein guy. But here, let me just quote him here. He did an interview with Harvard Magazine in 2019 about the mammoths, and legitimized this effort that he was putting into de-extincting them. They could support business models, including tourism, meat, hair, following a sheep model of seasonal removal, and maybe legal ivory. That was how he legitimized it.
It can be Jurassic Park, and then we can kill them.
It's like Jurassic Park, but like a sushi restaurant where you pick your own lobster. It's like
they just bring like a fully grown mammoth up to your table, and they just fucking do the No Country for Old Men thing on its head.
Would you hold still, please?
Oh God!
And they just fucking chop it into pieces for you. Hell yeah, dude. They send you a piano home.
You like it. The funniest part is like, you don't like it. This doesn't taste very good, actually. I don't want this anymore.
Right.
You have to George,
pretend. Yeah.
Of course, George Church is a fucking Epstein guy. I mean, when you see the words Harvard and geneticist together, but especially geneticist, when you see Harvard geneticist, they should really just shorten it to education geneticist, eugeneticist. I just came up with that.
Nice.
But no, I mean, this guy's a freak, and that's what I love about people like Joe Rogan, who are having frauds on to talk about the Epstein network, and then have Ben Lamb on, and just fail to bring up the fact that your business partner was homies with Jeffrey Epstein.
Stoked. I love animals. I want to go work on this. I'm just a weirdly curious person. So there's this guy named George Church. If you don't know George, you should look him up. He's the father of synthetic biology. He's at Harvard University. He's 6'7" with narcolepsy. He's just the best, right? So if you ever had him on, he may fall asleep during the podcast, but he's the absolute best. He's a genius. And I thought my background's in software and just building teams of people that are smarter than me, right? And so I was interested in synthetic biology, this idea that we could engineer life and that we could use AI and compute to make it even better. Like, how do we do directed evolution and how that could apply to like crops and animals and all kinds of stuff. So I get on the phone with George and I ask him my questions. He answers them in like 6 seconds because he's a genius. And then I start asking about all the other weird stuff that's coming out of his lab. In that process, he's like, I've also been working on mammoths and other things. I was like, wait, what? And I was like, if you had one project, what is it, this mammoth project? And then he went down this whole path about how he'd bring back mammoths, reintroduce them in the Arctic, help the ecosystem, use those technologies for conservation, use those technologies for human healthcare. And I kind of thought it was a fucking joke. I literally thought that like the smartest man I've ever met and been on the phone with.
I mean,
was
I'm
a joke.
speculating here.
Well, then I
This
stayed
is
up
just
all
me
night
guessing, but Epstein, in his desire to impregnate the world with his superior genetics or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't be
Everyone's gotta
surprised
have
if
an
he and
egg-shaped
George. I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if George was trying to help him out with that, or at least like dangling a carrot in front of his face, being like, "Yeah, I can do that for you." He has no problem with cloning. Like, he's a big fan of cloning human beings.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's just all around bad. So, I guess I don't think that they're sincere in their efforts to de-extinct anything. I think that kind of like in space colonization, the people who are promoting this stuff know that it's bullshit and it's not actually feasible.
Yeah.
So what is it for? Why are they doing this, you think?
It's for attention and funding. That's it. I mean, that has to be it. Like that's. I mean, so again, it's one of those things where if the thing that they want works, it's going to be catastrophic, and if it doesn't work, it's just going to be the same shitty, nothing ever happens world that we live in. And yeah, I mean, I do think that it's primarily just for funding and for attention. But if I am to give some grace, some generosity to them, I would say that, the idea is fundamentally, like you said, eugenic, right? Which is this idea of, hey, look how well it works for animals. Now we can do it for people. So now we can modify human beings. And I don't necessarily have a problem with screening, but modification. And of course, that's going to be something that is mostly going to apply to the super rich. It feels boring to even say that.
I know,
but yeah. So it's for funding, or it's for funding.
And this story came out around the same time as that New York Times article about the designer babies, the CRISPR babies.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to look at that?
I did, and it's funny because it immediately it started exactly the way that it should start if they wanted to win me over, which is that they immediately bring up retinitis pigmentosa, which is something that runs in my family, and up until a couple of years ago, well, I still don't really know. I haven't had genetic testing, but and my eyes are still getting real bad. So maybe I do have it. But it's a degenerative genetic illness that ends up removing your sight gradually over time. And it's kind of a nightmare. And of course, it's something that you would like to avoid. But no, I ended up reading through that still, and even with that right off the bat, not convinced.
Well, it should be noted that the company they were focused on, I think it was called Orchid, which provides this gene editing, is a Teal company,
right?
Palantir. So
let let me just say, sorry to get stuck on names of things again, but orchids are cool because of the fact that they have such an incredible variety of genomes and that they're able to survive in such like wide settings simply by their own incredible evolutionary potential. They're the most bizarre alien things on our planet. And sorry, fungi, orchids have you beat. But it's funny to name a company that wants to produce like essentially a uniformity of human experience and human existence, and name it after the most varied, like more varied than beetles, organism that exists. That is funny.
But I just want to go back on this lady for a second. Noor Siddiqui. Yes, she has a Teal Fellowship. Very nice. Good job, Noor.
Very cool. Good job.
She, in this article, to me, kind of comes across as an Elizabeth Holmes type figure.
Yeah,
over-promising. Yeah, I mean it's bullshit. I think they present this idea of gene editing as though it's precise when it's just you're just guessing, right? I mean it's just you're using data to kind of assume these correlations and then maybe cut something out, but people inevitably slip through the cracks. And there was this article some years ago about how I think it was Denmark had used gene editing or screening at least to basically get rid of all kids with Down syndrome. And so they've basically wiped Denmark from Down's people. And I think that there's been a kind of...
so no one's happy there anymore.
Exactly. There's been this renaissance, this Down's renaissance thanks to social media where people are like, actually Down's people kind of rock.
Now, deep breath and breathe out. Deep in, breathe out.
And we shouldn't get rid of them. The world would be much poorer without them.
Right.
But in that article, one of the saddest things was it was not 100% accurate. And occasionally, when they would screen for Down's syndrome, they would miss it. And this mother would have a Down's baby. And like it's almost like it turns out to be like a consumer choice, and you're being like, I want my money back. My kid's fucking retarded. It's like, that's so hateful, man. That's such ugly shit.
And you know, on top of that is just the fact that you know, so many of the conditions that you'd want to screen for that would actually matter are polygenic, right? They have multiple genes that are involved, and oftentimes, you know, changing those genes doesn't necessarily save you from it. Like you can in the best of worlds, like screen for sickle cell or something. But you know, you're not going to get rid of all these other polygenic health disorders like diabetes, cancer, heart disease. Even if you know, our food system was healthy, we would still have those things due to these polygenic conditions. And so, yeah, I mean, it would be really nice to live in a world without cystic fibrosis or sickle cell or retinitis pigmentosa. That would rule. But there are so many different factors that come into it, and on top of it, with these polygenic conditions, and even the conditions that only involve maybe one gene, if you're really lucky, you're still dealing with scenarios where a single gene doesn't just control one thing; it controls countless things, and so it's a real. The more you do, the less you get. I forget the turn of phrase. But no, it's kind of a joke. And on top of that, of course, you know, delivery is really difficult, things like that. And so unless you're just doing screening, which again, like I don't have a problem with screening per se, for the most part, at least for things like, you know, it would be nice to have a world without sickle cell, you know. the black community is going to get real mad. But just kidding. But yeah, even then, like you ended up kind of pointing out with the Down syndrome thing, there are conditions like Down syndrome or like congenital deafness or things like that where the people that have it oftentimes don't want that to be fixed, right? Like it's not a thing to be fixed. It is simply an alternative condition of being, and that they have communities and they have ways of being that are for their purposes, or because I don't know their lives, rich and wonderful and have a lot of benefits to them that we don't necessarily have. I mean, community maybe being the simplest version of it. But no, it all just seems like a joke.
And the truth, and they're not interested in actually removing, I think, diseases. What seems like is they want to create super babies, right? They want to create. Yep. They want you to be able to pick. Oh, you can have a 6'4", blue-eyed, like 160 IQ kid, which is a lie. On top of that, they got in trouble recently,
especially the IQ part. Yeah.
Siddiqui got in trouble when she claimed that her company is able to measure embryos' intelligence, which is just like
fucking shit.
Unbelievably stupid. Unbelievably stupid that you could measure intelligence. And these freaks are so obsessed with IQ. Anyone who takes IQ seriously, to me, is like supremely suspicious. IQ is kind of working like gene editing in its sort of trajectory, in that, like, I think it was initially used just to basically be like, okay, this person is mentally disabled. Not that they're smart. We're not going to use IQ to determine intelligence. Just this one sort of binary of like, are you under this arbitrary category, this arbitrary line that we're drawing?
And it's a line that changes over time as well. Like IQ is something that adjusts on, I don't know how many years they use, but it's something that constantly changes. The 100 ends up shifting where it is, because this is all an averaging system. It's really goofy, and it really has more to do with behavioral stuff than anything. Like just a something from my own life, again, is that when I was really young, I was a horrifying kid. I was a real fucking nightmare. Surprise. And my parents, they ended up sending me to this bizarre institute a few times, and they measured my IQ each time. And the measurements that we got back were like, there was a differential of like 40 points between their highest and the lowest gauges that they ended up giving. That's how much of a fucking like bizarre, either a bizarre joke it is, like how wrong and unreliable this is, despite what Jordan Peterson might say, or just actually really good proof that IQ is a primarily behavioral thing, as one might expect of a cognitive factor.
And they kind of expose themselves for the eugenicists that they all are, and just like a supreme misunderstanding of how life works. Again, they want to code you. They think that there is a special code that you can punch in and you get this result. I'm
gonna put Borges in my baby. I'm gonna just encode all the works of Borges, and I hope that they become inside out, I think.
That article in the New York Times interviewed that one couple that must have an amazing PR company to be constantly interviewed again and again. The Collinses, that couple who use gene editing screening and IVF, and they're like gonna have 10 kids or something because they believe it's their duty to repopulate the earth with people like them. And if you want to look at what go look at a picture of them and ask yourself if you want the world to look like that.
Right. The two most like the people you don't want to have in your D&D campaign, like real miserable human beings.
But they're talking. Of course, they when they're pitching their gene editing wishes, they're like, oh yeah, we'll get rid of heritable diseases, blah blah blah. But then when it really comes down to it, it's like, well, But if we have people with high IQ, there will be less social ills, less violent crime. When you raise a society's overall IQ, and this is a quote from the Collinses, societies that have more intelligent people will have lower rates of crime, of rape, of violence, because intelligence correlates negatively with those social blights. How are we having this conversation again? Why do we have to keep having this fucking conversation? Why do people believe this shit?
Yeah, it makes me think of all the conversations I've had with people who are intellectuals and say shit like, "I wish I was stupid." It's like, no, you don't, because it's just going to be a different kind of misery. You know, like you're just going to think about things in a slightly different way. And again, like I think there is a good amount of research that correlates IQ and genetics, but I think that probably has more to do with, you know, the family and the situation that you're raised in, things like that. If you're raised with a curious family,
it's phenotypic again.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Even saying phenotypic seems too generous because that implies a connection to a genotype. But yeah, it is. It's a morphogenic thing. Oh, well, maybe that's not generous enough, but it's all it is just it's confusing correlation and causation. That's the simplest thing. Mm-hmm. And it sucks.
Who put these people in charge? That's what I want to know.
Who put these people in charge?
Who
They
put
did.
these people in charge? They put themselves in charge. They did. Yeah. They're very overly confident fraudsters.
Yeah. Speaking of IQ, you know what really damages that, like real bad, is lead poisoning, which is something that's coming up a lot in the community that I work in. Raising children up. So, a big thing that affects IQ is, again, literally the fucking house that you live in, the school that you're educated in, even independent of the human beings that are around you. If your brain is being poisoned your entire life, and then that can get confused with, your genes, right? Because, again, if you're born to a family that is well off and is intelligent, who never had fucking lead poisoning, then chances are maybe you won't.
No, I think I'd rather open up people's pituitary gland and take a peek in and fuck with their souls.
Yeah.
That's the solution to it.
I want to get decalcified so fucking bad, dude.
That'd be a good scam. We could pull a good health scam. Is the decalcification retreat?
I like that. It actually connects well to the concrete thing.
Oh well, we'll talk about it later.
I know.
I think I wanted to end on the zooming out even further here with these people, these fucking freaks who need to be stopped at all costs. I can't emphasize enough how dangerous these people are and what they believe in.
Yeah.
There was an interview with Jared Lanier. How do you say his last name? Jared Lanier?
I'm not sure.
He's an AI guy. He's an interesting guy. I can't tell if he's white, but he's a white guy with dreads who.
No.
But he's one of the only good ones, I think. Maybe he's not white. No, his name is Jaron Lanier, and he's a computer scientist, but he's like one of the good ones. And he was interviewed in Vox recently, and
this guy. I'm seeing his picture now. Yep.
He was talking about this world that he lives in. So it's okay. So he's being asked by the interviewer about people who insist that AI is some new kind of god, creature, or entity, or oracle instead of a tool, and that people believe that they have a religious sort of interpretation of human extinction and AI. And what Jaron says is, he says, I talk to people who believe stuff like this all the time, and increasingly a lot of them believe that it would be good to wipe out people, and that the AI future would be a better one, and that we should wear a disposable temporary container for the birth of AI. I hear that opinion quite a lot. And he's talking about these people in Palo Alto who he's with, and he says there were some young AI scientists who were there saying that they would never have, quote, a bio baby, because as soon as you have a bio baby, you get the mind virus of the biological world. And when you have the mind virus, you become committed to your human baby. But it's much more important to be committed to the AI of the future. And so to have human babies is fundamentally unethical. What the fuck?
And it's shocking to think that a human being having human children would make them care more about the world. And that's a disgusting thing, that they would care more about the world by having a human baby. Yeah, it's gross. And you know, again, as I've implied or maybe said in past podcasts, I am like kind of a Nick Land enjoyer, if not a defender. And he points towards a lot of this shit, but at bottom, like, I don't know if you're ready to hear this, but we're people. We're human beings. Maybe that's the thing we should care about. You know, maybe not, especially like the types of people who are doing this. I imagine that there is a good contingent of them that are fucking like vegan or whatever, but I also imagine there's an equally large contingent of them that are doing like carnivore and just eating every animal that they see, and then arbitrarily assigning some kind of value to a thing that definitely does not have consciousness and probably never will, and determining that that is the thing that is going to matter and is going to have any kind of value that could ever be attributed to it, and not just a thing that makes paper clips forever. And no, that makes me sad.
Well, what makes you happy? Tell me something at the end of the show. I like to end the show on some kind of hopeful note, to leave the listener with not just a bitter, acrid taste in their mouths.
I mean, I would say the laughter of children, but that's been getting really irritating to me recently. Helicopters. What makes me happy?
Or hopeful, even.
Hopeful. I made Duxelle recently, and I would very much like to be able to afford Swiss cheese to put on that, and being the vision of being able to afford Swiss cheese to put on a sandwich and eat it, that makes me hopeful. That one day I can save up enough money to buy the cheese that I need in Wisconsin. But no, I mean, but something that does genuinely both terrify me and give me hope, despite how much I'm shitting on George Church, again, is this idea of people trying to democratize and kind of gain control of science, if not genetics, and probably not genetics. That's just going to lead to cancer, like most things do. But chemistry, simple biology, things like that, bringing that kind of shit into your own life and seeing the things that it can bring you. The production of simple fuels, if you want to get really crazy about it, the democratization of things like insulin, things like that, that does give me hope that those things are things that are viable for the future and are ongoing and things that are real already, despite the fact that all of these fucking people are trying to find ways to sell them to the rich. There are some things that we can scrape from that to help people that actually need it.
I'm looking forward to the meme gay son or thought daughter becoming a reality. You get to choose now, actually.
I like that. I'll make that now.
All right, Dorian, always a pleasure. I'll have you back on ASAP to talk about your book. How do I get a copy?
Go to I don't even know the website. It's just search up Operaciones Editorial, and you should be able to find your copy starting in May. It's Xenotaph. You can also just follow me on Instagram. It's Denk Deluz, and you should be able to get any kind of updates on there. I'm sure when the book comes out, I'll harass people about it until they don't want to buy it anymore.
We'll do a big push. I'll do a big push for you because this book sounds awesome.
Yeah, the coexist push really does people a lot of good, from what I hear. And otherwise, please, if you were interested in this biology stuff, or any of this science and philosophy oriented stuff, we are doing a workshop on time in my seminar right now, we're doing a seminar on time in my workshop. And we're starting off with biology, but we're moving on to the mind. We're going to be talking about physics. We're going to be talking about everything. It's going to go on for 9 fucking months. And you can find that on patreon.com/Trincata, TRUNCATA. And if you don't have money to spend on something like that, just DM me on Instagram. I'll find you a way in. Do not worry about it. But yeah. That's how you'll figure out about the book, and that's how you'll find me.
A love-struck Romeo sing the streets a serenade, laying everybody low with a love song that he made. Find the streetlight, steps out of the shade, says something like, "You and me, babe, how about it?" Juliet says, "Hey, it's Romeo. He nearly gave me a heart attack. He's underneath the window." She's singing, "Eli, my boyfriend's back. You shouldn't come around here singing up at people like that. Anyway, what you gonna do about it?" Juliet, the dice was loaded from the start, and I bet, and you exploded into my heart, and I forget the movie song. Well,